Hello friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. I am Jenny and today we are going to have a little fun putting a AquaPot together. I have decided I am ready to get some color going into some containers, and right now, because we have not come to our first frost date yet, which for us is April the 15th. Remember, we're in North Carolina, zone 7B here in the Piedmont, and so even though we are getting very close to our last frost date, we still have a couple of nights that are a little chilly. Therefore, that's why I'm doing it in a container, because I can, one, you can move the container if if it's this right size. You could put it in your garage. You can cover it maybe a little bit easier than annuals that are in the landscape and they're all spread out. So I am going to satisfy a little bit of an itch and get this AquaPot planted. I have some fun things that I'm going to share with you, maybe some ideas that you've never thought of before when you're creating a container. Lots of fun stuff, and we are going to be using that AquaPot, which of course is the wonderful self-watering containers from Proven Winners. It's a collaboration between Jack Barnwell, who came up with the whole concept of how it works, Michael Carr, who makes the pottery itself, and then Proven Winners, who sells it and markets it. We have used these for several years, ever since they came out onto the market, and for us here in North Carolina, it is a lifesaver, because even in August, I'm only having to water this like once a week as opposed to once a day or even twice a day. So we love them. So let me flip the camera around and let me show you exactly what we are going to do today and what we're going to put in this container. Today we are going to go bold. Go bold or go home. So we're going bold. I want some nice big pops of color. So we are going to be using the Super Petunia Mini Vista Hot Pink. Then we have Super Bells Yellow for my big pops of color, along with this beautiful purple Super Bell. This is, let me make sure I get the name right. This is a Blue Moon Punch, which to me looks like very much like Bordeaux, but it is a Super Bell, so it has a little bit of a smaller bloom on it. So we're going to be using those. Then the brand new this year, the Newly Noir Coleus. Man, I love these plants and they are gorgeous. Just look at that color. And for some accents, we're going to use the Plum Dandy. Fell in love with this plant when we did our tour of Pleasant View Gardens in New Hampshire, and I think I'm going to use the Artemisia. This is Silver Bullet, for a little bit of a color contrast and a little bit of a trailing effect. And then again, of course, we are using the matte black AquaPot. Whew, that is a mouthful. I've got all my supplies ready, so without further ado, let's get to planting. All right, I am all set up and I am ready to go. Now, before we get too far into this video, I am going to tell you that yes, I am planting the AquaPot in the shade here in the pines, but the container is actually going to be considered a full sun planting. I am doing it in the shade for the sake of videoing, because videos don't look as good when you film in the full sun, so that is why I'm in the shade today. But just know that what I am planting is considered a full sun planter. You really need, what that means is you need at least 5 to 6 hours of good, full, direct sun. That is a minimum. You can go all the way up to all day sun and it will be just fine. Now, just felt like I had to say that before we got really started. Using again, this is the matte black AquaPot. This is a 21-inch diameter, to give you an idea, because I know y'all are going to ask. So it's a 21-inch diameter. It's probably, I don't know, maybe 18 inches, 2 feet tall. But because it is an AquaPot, I'm not so concerned with how deep it is, because this bottom half of the container is filled with water. So remember how AquaPots work is, this is a ceramic glaze container from Michael Carr. There is not a hole in the bottom. So that is what makes AquaPots different. There is no drain hole in the bottom, but here in the back, there is an overflow hole. So that way it cannot fill up with water completely. There is a rim that goes on the inside that is built into the pot. What we're going to do is set this, the soil disc and the soil tube, they're just screwed in together, and it sits right on top of that rim, and it just sits there really easy. And then we have our water tube that goes into the hole and just sits there. So I tell people when you're planting your AquaPot to remember to put your water tube somewhere where maybe it's hidden. Maybe you don't want it right in the front. If you put it, I tend to put it in the back because plants will grow over it, and really soon this will disappear and nobody is going to see it. The only secret when you're doing your AquaPots is that, of course, you get everything in first and then use your really good high quality potting soil. The only potting soil that I use in my containers is the Proven Winners. I have tried other even really high quality potting soils. Proven Winners to me is the best combination of nutrients, and it drains well at the same time. For us in the South, that's a big deal because you know we get, especially here in the spring, tons of rain and water, and I need my containers to drain well. Even an AquaPot that is a self-watering container, the potting mixture itself does not hold on to tons of water. It's not soggy. It's this beautiful balance of they have the moisture that they need, but yet they're not sitting and soaking wet potting soil. So that is a big deal for us. So that is why I only use the Proven Winners potting soil. It does have a bit of slow release fertilizer in here already. We will talk about fertilizing and how we maintain this container once we get it all planted up. So when you're planting your AquaPot, I pour some in and then I stuff my soil tube with the potting soil with my fist to make sure it's really well down in there, because that is how the soil comes in contact with water. It has those little slits. We have talked about AquaPots a gazillion times. I'll link one of the videos that we kind of first did with AquaPots that really go into a lot of depth explaining it. So my soil tube is filled and in we go. I am not going to fill it completely up because I do have some 1 gallons that I'm going to be using, and a lot of plants are going to go in here. That is one thing that I quickly learned when using an AquaPot, is that I can quote overplant it, because I tend to think long term on our when I do a container. Because we have such a long growing season, I could plant something in April and it goes all the way through to November for me. So I want to think about, you know, how is this planter going to look come August or September, October, November. With the AquaPots, with all the watering, the self-watering aspect of it, it takes away my concern of having to water it a ton in the late summer. So I am going to fill this baby up and she is going to be glorious. So I think what we're going to do first is sorry about that little brief interruption. We had a loose puppy on our hands, and so we had to gather her up and put her back in her caregiver's hands. So don't really remember where I left off, so we're going to come back to this. Okay, AquaPot is full. We're going to use our fantastic plants. I overplant than what I normally do. Okay, on the same page. How you plant is going to depend on how you want to look at it. I'm going to go ahead and plant this as if we are going to see it from all sides. If you know that your container is going to be up against a wall or a tree or what have you, of course you can arrange your plants differently. I'm going to plant this as if we see it from all the way around. My centerpiece, my thriller, is going to be, like I said, the Color Blaze Newly Noir, and this is the brand new coleus. This year we trialed it out last year and loved it. You can see this gorgeous, solid, deep kind of purple maroon color to it. It is stunning. Now these let's see, let's get it right here. Yeah, so the Color Blaze series can do sun or shade. When you have your plant, you're going to have, even if you have the exact same plant, but it's in, like say one's in sun and one's in the shade, they're going to have a little bit of a color variation. And that's just because of the sun. They will get 24 to 40 inches tall and wide, but they respond really well to being pruned. So like this one is kind of growing straight up because it was in the tray. If you want to go ahead and pinch it back, you certainly can. What you will do is where two sets of leaves are, and then you cut them, and then those leaves will turn into branches. You want your coleus to be more mounding than straight up. So we have the gorgeous Nulu Noir is going to be front and center and be our thriller. Now, we're going to use the Supertunia Mini Vista Hot Pink. This is a petunia. It is a Mini Vista, and it is in a gallon container. We sometimes offer our petunias and calibrachoas in gallon containers, and you can tell that it's really well in there. It is doing well. Now, some of y'all look at this and go, oh my gosh, it's root bound. What are you gonna do? The only thing I may do is just come in here and very lightly just pull those roots back just a little bit. I am not going to go in here and destroy this. I'm just breaking it up. They will be fine. I promise. They will search for the moisture and the food, and they will do great. This is going to be one of our spillers. So we're somewhat following that thriller, filler, spiller recipe. So there we go. And I kind of tuck it off to the side. Obviously, we have a big size difference right now between the Mini Vista Hot Pink and the Nulu Noir. I am not worried about that in the least because I know this plant and it will rapidly take off and be huge and glorious. That's just where you have to kind of know your plants and know that it is all right. Everything is going to be just fine, and they're going to be one big happy family. Now, on the other side, for my big pop of color, I'm using my Super Bells Yellow. Now, some of you may be going, oh my gosh, Jenny, how can you be using a calibrachoa and a petunia in the same container? I thought they had completely different nutritional needs and water needs, and what are we gonna do? Oh my gosh, you can't put those two together. Yes, you can. It's all right. We always preach to you that Super Bells do not do well in the ground landscape here because we have, you know, of course, that thick red clay soil that holds on to moisture. Super Bells, it is true, they do not like to have wet feet. They will basically kind of rot and die. They hate to have wet feet. A petunia can handle having wet feet. It is more tolerant of those conditions. In a container, you can absolutely mix the two together. You just need to have a good potting soil, light-proven winters, that drains well. Even in a self-watering container, you can have Super Bells. Again, like I said at the beginning, it's a self-watering container, yes. Is the soil completely saturated and soupy and goopy all season long? No, not at all. So you absolutely can mix these two together in a container and they will do fabulously well. Just make sure that you have a soil, like proven winters, that see the bark? That means it's a well-draining soil. It's not going to be really soggy and compact. So there's my soapbox for the day. I'm actually going to move yellow over just a little bit. Can you tell the teacher's coming out in me? Oh, wow. Okay, so along with that, for another big bold pop of color, we're going to use the Super Bells Blue Moon Punch. Now, you'll notice that these are grande size. I don't have these in a gallon, so since it's in a grande, I'm going to use 2 of them. There's actually 2 liners in this yellow, and there's 2 of the Mini Vista liners in the hot pink. So I'm going to kind of balance that, and I'm going to use 2 of the grandes of my my Blue Moon Punch. You will want to make sure, if you are going to mix your Super Bells and your Supertunias, you're going to want to make sure that you choose somewhat of the same vigor, because petunias are more vigorous than your Super Bells. That is why I went with Hot Pink, Mini Vista Hot Pink, as opposed to, say, Vista Fuchsia or Vista Paradise. Heaven forbid we didn't use bubblegum, because it is super vigorous. Now, I'm realizing it's hard to talk and garden at the same time, so I realized I put my yellow too close to that way. Okay, here we go. I'm going to plant my Blue Moon Punch as if it were one plant, so they're going to go right beside each other so that we still have that nice big bold pop of color. There we go. Okay, so that is my main colors. Kind of did them in a triangle apart from each other, and we're going to come back in and we're going to add some accents. Again, I told you I fell in love with this Proven Accents Plum Dandy. When we were doing our tours of Pleasant View Gardens in New Hampshire, they had it in multiple places in their display gardens, and it was gorgeous, and I love it. So it has that really nice burgundy foliage to it. It is an accent plant. It is not going to flower, but it pairs really nicely, different texture, different leaf size than my Newly Noir. So we're gonna kind of pop these in, and I'm gonna use 2 of them. I'm gonna use them right across from each other so that they will get a nice size and a nice accent. These will get 10 to 16 inches tall, and they will get, your minimum spacing is about 12 inches. Your maximum spacing is 14 inches. All right, so the last plant that we are going to use today is yet another accent plant. This is the Proven Accents Silver Bullet, and this is a fun Artemisia, beautiful silvery green foliage, and it does have that trailing habit. It will get 6 to 10 inches tall, but we're definitely using it as that kind of that cool color to accent, pop off the plants, and it will have that little bit of a trailing habit. All of these plants are going to grow together and intermingle and just become one big happy family with one another. Now, if you want to move, your placement of your plants around, you absolutely can. That is the beauty of making containers, is that just because even if we use the exact same plants, my container and your container could look different. That is the art and the joy of gardening, and it is a beautiful thing. So if you're sitting here going, well, I would put it there and I would put this there, yay, then that's what makes your container unique and different than mine. And in the end, they will be equally as gorgeous. So now that we have the plants in, I do have some empty spaces between my plants. So I'm just going to come back through using my grande containers, scooping up the potting soil, and then what I'm going to do is just really simply fill in some soil, make sure everybody's in the right spot, and then we'll talk about how to have good maintenance on this container that will give you months of enjoyment. Everybody is all nice and snugged into their new home. They've got lots of good potting soil all around them. And then if you have watched me for any length of time when I make containers, I always use and top dress my containers with mulch. And so this is just the same mulch that we use in our landscape. It is simply a hardwood dyed brown mulch, but I do go ahead and fill in the top layer of my containers with that mulch for a couple of reasons. One, if it's not a self-watering container, it helps retain the moisture, so there's not the evaporation process. Two, it helps insulate the roots, whether it is this time of year where we have maybe some cool nights, so it kind of helps hold in the heat. And then in the summertime, it kind of does the opposite. It keeps the roots cool, very much like the insulation in the attic of your house. Also, at this point, it just makes it look pretty. So I have some little bare spots that are showing between the plants, of course, because they're not full grown yet. So you can see where that potting soil was. When you add the mulch, then it just makes it look really pretty. And then when I go and water it in, because even though it's an AquaPot, I will water them in really well, the potting soil doesn't splash up. So it's just a nice little trick that I have learned that works really well for us here in North Carolina, is to add that top layer of potting soil mulch to the potting soil. So that is what is going on there. Now, because Proven Winner, I am using the Proven Winners potting soil, it does have the slow release fertilizer in there, but a trick that I learned from Jack Barnwell is to go ahead and take your slow release fertilizer, and this is a new container, it's a new season, new growing season. It's the first slow release fertilizer that I've opened this year. One, it does have a little scoop that you can use, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take about 2 or 3 scoops of my slow release fertilizer, and I'm going to pour them down the water hole, because that way, as the water and the soil is soaking up that water, it's fertilized water. Your slow release fertilizer is released based on temperature. So I don't use this, of course, in the winter time because it's so cold, but in the summertime, this is fantastic. It is a great way to ensure if you miss one of your liquid fertilizing sessions that your plants are still getting fed. So we drop it down into the water reservoir, so that will be nice fertilized water. So this is a great option. On the container, it says that it will last up to 6 months. Here in the South, I have found that it lasts for about 3 months. So it's April, so sometime in June, you can reapply some more of this and it will get you through pretty much the end of your growing season. You'll know when your plants need a shot of food because they'll maybe not as many flowers, or they don't get as nice dark green. What we will begin doing here within, I could do it now, but I'm not going to right now, is that you can go ahead and start using your water-soluble fertilizer on them as well. Of course, Proven Winners is what I use. I'm just sharing with you what I use and what I have had great success with. So there's a lot of great ones on the market. I have found that for us, the best one to use is the Proven Winners. And so because all of these plants, especially my calibrachoas and my petunias, are very heavy feeders. That means if you're not feeding them, then they can't produce their blooms. They don't have the resources available to them to produce these gorgeous flowers. So you will need to feed them on a regular schedule. So all you got to do is, in the container, you again have your scoop, you have your bags of the granular, and it is 1 scoop per 1 gallon of water. That way, for me, I have a 2-gallon watering can. I put 2 scoops in there, mix it all up so it dissolves, and then I just go in and water the container, even if it's an AquaPot. So maybe when it's my time to, it needs a little bit of a refill, then I'll do the water soluble first, let that water sink in, and then I'll fill up my fill tube. So that is what your maintenance is going to be. Really quickly, all of this is going to grow together and be this nice huge mass of this vibrant color. It is going to be stunning. Now, I do have a fun little trick that I'm excited to share with you. So Proven Winners, even though this is a self-watering container, right? One little trick that you never have to really go out and, like, if you have a hard time getting a hose to your AquaPot, is if you have an irrigation system, is that you can run your little water line up in the back, either down the hole, like the fill tube, or you can go in the back where that little drain hole is and stick it through there. So Proven Winners sent us this. This is their water-wise irrigation kit. And so I wanted just to share it with you and show it to you because we've opened it up. We have big plans for this for on our back porch. But this is a great option for you folks who want to put in a really simple irrigation system on your hanging baskets or your containers. Maybe you don't have an AquaPot. No big deal. If you put it on an irrigation system, then that really eliminates any kind of question of, did I water? How much water? I'm going on vacation for a couple of days. What am I going to do? Who am I going to get to take care of it? Don't even have to worry about it. You know that Jerry knows his irrigation system really well because obviously we have to here at the nursery. And he was super impressed with this. It's really high quality. When we put our irrigation system up on the back porch, because I don't have irrigation on my hanging baskets on the back porch, so I have to hand water them. So this is what we're going to use the WaterWise kit with. But they send you everything you need to know, or need to have rather, and it will, let me get my instructions here. So it includes a 100-foot coil of your vinyl tubing, which is right here, right? So that is what actually, you know, transmits the water for you. And then you've got 10 half-gallon drippers. Then you have some little barbed tees, right? So when you're connecting it all together, that's your connectors. You've got your faucet adapter, support stakes, a backflow prevention. You've got all your little clamps that you need if you want to put them, you know, up like what we're going to be doing up on a wall. You have everything that you possibly need for them. And you have the little stakes that will go in and hold the irrigation in your container. So if you remember, we just did a nursery tour and I was talking about how our drippers are coming out of our hanging baskets because they're blowing out. Well, not if you have this little stake, because the tube goes right through here and it goes into your container and it won't blow out. So we are super excited to use this. When we get ready and get closer to putting our hanging baskets out, we will take you through this whole process, but I will have that link on the video description and even like right here below, even though you can't click on it. If you go to Proven Winners website and then follow this link, and it will take you right to the water-wise irrigation kit, and then you can order it and get it, you know, at your house, so that way you can have it. It's always good to have these things before you need them, so you can have them set up and ready to go. So other than that, yeah, so I am going to leave this here. I am not, just because y'all always get so concerned when I don't show you that I'm watering something in. I'm going to give it just a little splash of water right now, but I am not going to fill up this reservoir because this AquaPot, remember, is a full sun planting. It has got to get moved, and if I fill it up with water, it is going to be very, very heavy, and Jerry will not like me very much for the rest of the day. So I am just going to give it a little bit of a drink of water just on the top. The plants were already well watered, but just give them a little shot of water for the day. Once we move it to its final place, then I will fill it up with some water. The only plant that I'm going to have to really be concerned about if we get a cool night would be my coleus. But again, I can easily take a sheet and cover it and it will be just fine. As always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends. Greta, come.